Ladies and gentlemen, we now proceed, like I mentioned, to a very important plenary session of the day on building cyber resilience through ESG integration. Well, we did have a lot of discussions around cyber resilience, but now it is time we take that discussion a notch higher to how we can build that cyber resilience through ESG integration, a regulator-investor dialogue. And for the same, we have a power-packed panel of leaders who will be joining us on stage. It is time to encapsulate some multidecular learnings from our speakers. And for the same, first up, I'd like to invite on stage Mr. Rajesh Thosani, Senior Vice President, Marsh McLennan. Can we please welcome him with a big round of applause? Next up, I'd like to invite Mr. Anurag Nalawade, Global Head, India, GSI's Blanco. Next up, may I please invite Mr. Parveen Kumar, Chief Market Information Security Officer, NPCI. Warm welcome, sir. Next up, I'd like to invite Mr. A.R. Nityanantham, ED of Insurance Regulator and Development Authority of India. Warm welcome to you, sir. Next up, may I please also invite Mr. A.G. Giridhanan, General Manager, Reserve Bank of India. Warm welcome. And to spearhead this conversation, I'd like to extend a very warm welcome to Mr. Vinayak, the Chief Executive Officer at DSCI. Well, over to you, Mr.
Yeah, thank you.
Forward.
I know this subject of ESG. I think some of you must be knowing what is ESG, right? E is environmental, S is social, and G is governance. And as a subject of security and now privacy, we probably understand what it takes to governance, right? And regulators especially had been pushing hard the regulated entities to enhance the governance in terms of managing the cyber affairs, basically, right? But there is other aspects which are coming as a social and environmental as well, and why security is discussed in the context of ESG. And there are a lot of discussion happening in last 2 years. Many organizations are putting together processes to report their performance against the ESG goal. And you know that entire discussion of this net zero is now increasingly transition to the environmental, social, and governance goal. And especially regulators, the regulators which is largely from the capital sector regulators had been taking very active effort in this. European geography has been taking, so started with US SEC doing something in this area. We'll dwell that into this discussion. Then Europe and also SEBI also came up with this regulation, right? So we will try to discuss the need and probably necessity and the context of cyber in the discussion largely the people have in the ESG goal, right? And why cyber is critical in that, why should we discuss, and this is a very new early subject, we all are learning about this. So we will try to get some views from the participants here, and we have regulators here, we have somebody from NPCI, then insurance company, and also one of the technology company. So we like to hear their perspectives. I can start with Nityanand, so how you see the entire IT ecosystem is evolving and the context of the social and environmental and governance. From that context, how do we see Indian ecosystem, enterprise ecosystem stands?
Good afternoon. Good evening, everybody. See, in today's digital environment, the cyber security is not confined to only to the organization.
Yeah.
So it affects the investor, it affects the policyholder, it affects the connected organization, all the related organization, it affects actually. So the cyber resilience aspect of an organization has to be viewed in a very comprehensive manner actually. That is a precise reason that the ESG principles also has to be made as a part of the organization's overall objective. IRDA has already issued the guidelines, but our guidelines are more on the focusing on the cyber security of the organization. The first initial version had that but in the subsequent the guidelines, the security aspects have been considerably improved, and we have also brought the entire regulatory entities, including the brokers, the corporate agents, part of this, the overall the guidelines, a preview of the guidelines. So it is very important because the cyber resilience of an organization is actually the need of the hour. And the resilience means that the organization's ability to face the cyber attack and respond to that and recover from the cyber attack in a quickest possible time. And that will ensure that the business continuity also happens on a seamless basis, and ultimately the investors gets confidence on the working of the organization. So cyber resilience is very important, and integrating the ESG principles into the cyber security the landscape will actually enhance the resilience of the organization in facing the cyber security threats. So that's what is from my side.
Yeah, but this you talked about very important part, the ramification. And Giridhan sir, I would like to come to you. The ramification of security is not limited to individual organization, right? It also impacts the health of the cyberspace, impacts the overall consumer ecosystem, and also sometimes trust on digital means as well, right? And from that perspective, you need to see how the security preparations are being made. So would you like to comment this in addition to what he had said on that?
Yeah, so in fact, globally, if you see, cybersecurity risks are discussed at the board level, and it is that, it is discussed as part of the business strategy. So it's not separately seen as a responsibility of just a CISO to ensure that the cyber resilience is maintained, but even the first line to ensure that whatever products they are putting in place or developing, they ensure that the cyber component is part and parcel of that. So that is, so the concept that the cyber security is only the role of CISO is no more there, number one. Yeah. Number two, the recent reports, even the IMF's financial stability report, they have come out with a specific chapter only about the impact of cyber security for the overall financial ecosystem, like how the cyber risk can have financial risk also, the developing to the financial risk, and also it can lead to a systemic risk, because if one system fails or one critical systemically important component fails in the entire ecosystem, the entire ecosystem can come to a halt. So the importance of cyber security in a particular ecosystem, not just an organization, but at the sectoral level, maybe at the hub level, are equally important. So that is the relevance. Now I will go to the third level. While we see from the sector angle, the institution angle, or a collective systems angle, even the customers who are the silos are the players in the entire digital ecosystem. The social component specifically is very, very important, where the cyber hygiene for each and every individual also matters a lot to protect the overall, I would say, the sanctity of the ecosystem. Because the trust component comes only from them. Unless the trust component is established at the social level and at the each and every individual level, and we build necessary cyber security controls for them, the products they use, or whether we call it internet or mobile or whatever be the payment ecosystems and other products, unless we build a certain trust there, it will not get translated into the overall stability of the financial stability. So I'm seeing from all three perspectives.
So Pravinji, security is so deep down, right, and so operationally focused, technologically focused, so much interdependency we have to manage, and now we have been pushed to talk to board, we have to push to get more support from the board, and board we are pushed to develop better language to talk to an engaged board on a security matters, right? While we had been talked about that, and now suddenly we are talking about the larger context of a ESG, which is at a national level, at an economy level, at a sometimes global environmental level as well, right? So suddenly, while we talk about ESG in context of cyber, suddenly we may get exposed to something which we are not really prepared as a mindset from the CISO or security management ecosystem perspective. How do you see this discussion? Is it a burden, putting another level of burden putting on the security managers, or probably it could have been an opportunity as well?
So thank you for asking interesting question. Definitely it's a matter of transition, how quickly adopt this transition. So I don't see this is an additional burden. I see this is an opportunity. So any CISO or any leader should be concerned about the environment, their social responsibility, and of course they are responsible to create the robust governance system, right? So ESG comes with the three word, it's environment, right? And environment includes the critical infrastructure mainly, and how to reduce the carbon footprint, etc. Social is all about the individual, you and me, being a social person, how you are getting assurance from any of the company that your information is protected. If you are doing any transaction, that your transaction is protected, integrity is and confidentiality is intact. And the governance is all about that, what kind of robust policies you have, what kind of organizational structure you have, how much you are compliant with the different regulations, right? And all these three aspects, there is flavor of digital touch, right? Yeah. Without digital, you cannot manage effectively all these three aspects, right? So you cannot manage the critical infrastructure without digitizing the entire management, right? You cannot reduce the carbon footprint unless you automate, and when you do the automation, then we need to have the strong cybersecurity practice, right? On the social front, right, you should be having the very robust data protection policy. You should be having the data protection governance structure in place. There should be some control in place. You should be compliant with the different regulation like GDPR or India upcoming DPDP Act. All together this, and similar way on the governance side, right? All three together, if you can create or show to the board that we understand our responsibility and we measure those cyber security element in all three factors, and if you could provide assurance to your management, your board, that yes, we are there and we are living up to your expectation, and these are our dashboard, these are our KRI, these are the things, and there are good standard, and we generally follow the SASB standard, which also talk about that how that cyber security can be integrated into the ESG. If you can create one pager and present to the board, I think you are getting the brownie point from the board, and you can.
And maybe more commitment of budget will come with this.
Of course, budget. So in NPCI, right? So and I'm sure for it's for all the organization. If CISO is able to create a good business case, taking the risk management into the consideration, I think CISO generally, and last 15 years I have been to the leadership position, and I generally get a good budget plan based on my business case. So it all depends on the CISO's capability. So this is again my personal experience, but yes, there is always a struggle for the CISO to get the budget.
So Ritesh, with these new obligations coming in, and this budget will sometimes some organization put separate budget for ESG than cybersecurity. This provides in a way opportunity for cybersecurity to some budget to manage security much better, right? So this must get factored into some of the insurance discussion that you may have, right? And does this idea of a ESG in cybersecurity until now factor, or is you see that will get factored in the insurance?
Yes, so in fact, that's a brilliant question, Vinayak. What we have seen is insurers right now are refusing to write companies who are not ESG compliant globally. Yeah. Who doesn't have a roadmap ahead that what they're going to do for ESG. So we are speaking to insurers, especially in Singapore and US, where they do a thorough check of an MNC in India on what's been talked about them in social media, how are they taking care of their digital waste, how are they taking care of all the other waste, how are they compliant to the government regulatory. Because once you Google a company's name and just search in news, what's happening with ED, what's happening with regulators, what's happening with RBI, insurers are not comfortable with it. So there should be a proper roadmap for every company that we see. So right now in India, the ESG targets are very high. The board is anyway facing challenges to manage the target. To top that up, India is the most loved country by hackers.
Yeah.
So you have cyber security pressure on the CISOs as well. As Mr. Kumar rightly said, it's just depending on how you show your budget to the board that why it's required, why we need to go there. Mr. Kumar gave you examples on ESG. For E, we see that data centers right now are consuming 1% of global electricity, which is a huge number.
And for cyber also we are processing a lot of information. Right?
That's right. So information, and again, if we have energy efficient data centers, India is going to be next up for energy efficient data centers. We are reducing the cost by 50% operational cost. Subsequently, we are going to reduce the digital footprint as well, carbon footprints. The e-waste, right now as we speak, 62 million metric tons have been gone for e-waste last year. Only 17.4 were properly recycled. This is on the environment side. In India, board is more focused on environment because they have been penalized by the tribunal. We have nothing in ESG. We are looking for DPDP coming in. Mr. Kumar rightly mentioned on the social side, there are 2.6 billion people not connected on internet right now globally. This is a report as per last year. We need more connectivity of people. We need to know more, especially regulators, brokers, NPCI. Everyone can go along and educate people that why it's the most important thing right now. On the corporate governance, initially, thanks to GDPR, people were scared. $4.4 billion up till right now they have been fined by GDPR. When DPDP came in, as March we were representing, the first draft when it came in, we are the happiest that okay, now Indian data will be at par with the EU data or a US data. Governance in India is going threefolds. If let's say the world is going 1x, we are going 3x. Digitally, regulatory, insurance, ESG, cyber security spends, and of course attacks as well. So we have seen a lot of number crunching over here. Ransom is the most talked about in India. So what's your cyber security policy speaking about ransom attacks? What's your ESG speaking about digital footprint? What are ESG speaking about e-waste? What's your ESG speaking about if there's a fine coming tomorrow? What's your governance speaking of it? Are you complying with each and every government offices globally where your operations? What it is. So this is where I think the board is going to focus on going forward, because today or tomorrow you're going to get compromised, that's for sure. We all know about it. You need to have a risk transfer solution. You can only have a risk transfer solution if the insurers are comfortable with the risk. And the only way they're comfortable with the risk is if you show them good governance, good social responsibility, good environmental practices that you have. So this is what we are seeing in the insurance partners globally, not only in India. So that's where we act.
Yeah, and then I think with this perspective coming in, and one of the key thing, right, Anurag, you represent the technology community here, right? So one is, this is a good news for us because there's a possibility, as Praveen talked about, and that may create opportunity for the technology companies as well. But there are some goals like social goals, right? As a technology community which is building solutions like this, those goals also require environmental, right? And I'm not sure the technology what you build, if you promise that security technology can environmentally more responsible, if you promise security technology, the way you manage entire enterprise basically is socially more responsible, more committed basically. So does that helps you to create more opportunity? Would that create more opportunity for you as a brand image of our organization, as a commitment of the organization?
Sure. I think yes, there are no two ways about it. Technology gives you more options in terms of how you want to solve a problem. I maybe I'll pick on the e-waste point which was spoken about, that if you had a technology to avoid or reduce the e-waste, maybe by increasing the lifespan of the devices which organizations use, that is going to affect in in all three E, S and G. For example, typically a laptop or a server hardware is used for 3, 4, max 5 years by any organization, and many organizations still decide that after that usage they want to maybe destroy that hardware to destroy the data, and they want to destroy data because they want to avoid data security issues. But if you destroy the data, then you're not meeting the ESG goals. But if you choose to maybe take an option of a technology where it allows you to just destroy data and keep the hardware, firstly, through an environmental perspective, you are reducing the CO2 emissions, because what you're doing is you are enabling the laptop, let's say, to be used for 6-7 years, which means that somewhere in the world, you are manufacturing one less laptop, you are logistically reducing the CO2 emissions due to that. Also, if you choose to not reuse, maybe give it to the vulnerable parts of the society, that's where the social goals come in. Instead of destroying the hard disk, you may choose to give an intact configured laptop for the society to use. You are enabling them to utilize the laptop without spending on it. And through a governance aspect, I think recently, about a year back, when EU CSRD has come, they focus a lot on reporting. What are your reporting directives? So again, the technology where whatever process you go with, it has to have proper reporting documentation. I think one of the esteemed panels did spoke about automation as well. There, the processes should be enabled in a way where you are, let's say, reducing the e-waste, but you're also having all the governance which is helping you with security regulations. So yeah, that's my take on it.
Yeah, but that's interesting, right? Reusability, some of the security technology assured we are giving that assurance that the data is deleted, and technologically it is proven, so then you can reuse that assets, and in a way you also reduce the carbon footprint, which is quite a good point to add here, because some of the security technology can help you do that basically, right? So some of the security technology that I know that that helps you to compress data so that storage requirement is going down. So so some of these ideas that people are putting together for building security technology can also reduce the carbon foot down, and that's good use case and example that you talked about. Coming to you, so this is certainly because as a regulator we want the boards more responsible, and I'm seeing some of the circulars US and RBI is like the canvas of expectations of from the board is so big. So on one hand we are asking, and there is RBI regulation as well talks about ki board should have nuanced understanding of security. And at the same time, there is expectation board should approve the security strategy as well. That's the expectations from the board, and increasing expectation and responsibility is attributed to the board basically. So when this is happening, I think ESG is one part is regulation, but other part is the overall organization's long-term sustenance as well, like in ecosystem basically. So that will in a way add the overall governance of security, right?
Correct. So as a regulator, what we generally see is that how an organization has inbuilt a self-governance mechanism within the organization itself to ensure that the cyber security, the guidelines are fully adapted. See, worldwide the regulators are moving from rule-based to the principle-based regulations, because the rule-based regulation is no longer will work, and it requires a lot of cost to the regulator as well as the regulated entities. So the regulator wants to ensure that there is an inbuilt mechanism within the organization. For example, we generally see that there is a policy in place on cyber security, and there is a governance mechanism within the organization, self-governance mechanism, and there is a proper reporting lines on the cyber security. These are the aspects we see that, and also the regulator, we generally see that to what extent the company is transparent in reporting the cyber security incidents, the cyber security reporting related issues. So these are from the regulator side, we generally ensure that the things are in order actually. So the guidelines, regulation also reinforces this structure in overall. So we ultimately want to ensure that the governance mechanism is in place within the organization itself to ensure cyber security, the adaptability of the cyber security guidelines, also the overall adherence to the ESG principles.
No. So, Dhiradhanji, with you means one important part of this is the population that we are serving, and especially the population which is vulnerable in nature, right? So sometimes I see even liability equations also are written in such a way that you, in case of eventualities, there is a larger good, means you make organization to take more responsibility and accountability towards the, because if number of people and that to various different vulnerability or age group also transacting digitally, so they may expose their digital footprint actually, right? And sometimes you have to be mindful of that when if you are working towards creating trust on digital means basically. So from that perspective, how, I mean, regulators are definitely now reflecting on this. How can we support the population and reduce the liability on them and make organizations more responsible and liable?
Yeah, so I'll touch upon that. So before that, just a thought was coming about when we were discussing about the environmental aspect. So in a way, cybersecurity, while yes, we do need to invest on cybersecurity, good cyber solutions, which can maybe increase the digital footprint, but I mean the carbon footprint, sorry. But even a good cybersecurity solutions in a way can sort of identify vulnerable processes, cryptojacking activities, and then in a way reduce it. We are seeing a lot of activities happening on the cloud environment, especially if it's not monitored properly. So cybersecurity can also play a positive role in ensuring that the carbon footprint is reduced to that extent. And a corollary there I'm trying is to see we also are very particular about the systems going obsolete, going out of support, not providing adequate support. So we do insist the entities to sort of upgrade the systems which to take care of the security aspects. Of course, the performance functionality are equally important. So this is just a thought. But coming to your question, so I'll just briefly tell about 2-3 points how we are trying to address this particular solution, where we know that by understanding that the public at large may not be having a good cyber hygiene, maybe they are prone to cyber attacks and maybe they are vulnerable, but then how a system can take care of that. Specifically, what we have done, I would say from the limited liability, there is a circular which clearly tells about if the customer encounters a fraud or if he reports within 3 days, then yes, there is a concept of zero liability on him, provided yes, there is no compromise at his end. If the customer compromises the credentials or the two-factor authentication, then that's a different question. Well, that stands like that. How on a proactive basis we are implementing preventive controls, I will just take 2-3 minutes. So first one is about earlier we saw a lot of incidents where there was a remote access of the devices where customers are doing the fund transfers, and then the fraudster could install remote access solutions like TeamViewer or any desk, things like that, and then take the access of the device as if physically the device is handed over to the fraudster and used to put the transactions. So through our master direction on digital payment security controls in Feb 2021, we clearly said that a bank, while developing the applications, should also ensure that their mobile applications are sensitive to these remote access apps and then should not function. So what we are trying to do, unlike an internet banking where it is just a thin client, in a mobile banking, the customer's thick client, the responsibility also goes into the bank. So the bank has to sort of bundle it along with antivirus, anti-malware and other security controls, so that the ecosystem becomes safe at the customer's hand itself. And by this, what happened, any type of remote access apps were getting noticed by the bank's own apps and they were not able to put through a transaction. It was one very important control we tried to do. In fact, if you go through the master direction, we also told the entities to identify any unsecure Wi-Fi spots, do not allow internet mobile banking on that, alert the customers on those things, any root installation, or things like that, routing of the systems. And so the bank's applications have become more secure and alert the customers proactively to ensure that they don't fall prey, number one. Number two, even the fraud monitoring solutions. Of course, there are scope for improvement in that, but the fraud monitoring solutions also are AI enabled to identify any fraudulent attempts also on a proactive basis and try to reduce the footprint of it. Number three, we are all aware about the national NCRP, that is a cybercrime reporting portal 1930 number, where today all the banks are members of that, and any customer reporting any digital fraud will get reported onto the portal, and it percolates from there to the beneficiary bank as well as the victim's bank, and on a quick basis they are able to sort of put a hold on the fraudulent fund. The objective is to mitigate the loss to the customer, and these are the initiatives which are happening parallelly. There are a lot more other initiatives, and also the awareness measures which we are taking up on the public, the initiatives of how to be cyber aware, how to do a cyber, how to improve the cyber hygiene protocols at the customer end. These are also going a lot in improving the overall cyber resilience. Of course, the volume of transactions are increasing, and therefore we are seeing a rise in the fraud. But as a proportion, if you see, yes, it's not increasing. That's what I would say.
Yeah, this is very important, right? So I like to come to Praveen on this, like, the kind of intervention and the larger kind of there is something called the public good, right? Increasingly, security is a public good issue, right? It's like while doing business, you also make sure that the public good is served, and from that perspective, one is obligations which is coming on. Another is the system architecture that we are putting together. For example, all the effort RBI or IRDS put together for the awareness, or this architecture that we put together to 1930, and all the effort we are putting to provide better support to the victim, better, or in a way, assuming that the people will commit mistakes, basically, right? So from that perspective as well, right, this improves the overall digital culture of the country, because, and the way the accountability principle means GDPR talks about as a particular principle for implementation, we don't talk about, but overall ecosystem is now making organization more accountable, responsible, rather than making individual customer responsible for this. So how do you see that your work in fintech ecosystem as well, right? And that also zeroes down to investment somebody can get as well, right? And financial growth that you basically also achieve out of it. How do you say this larger public good is factoring into, will be factoring especially in coming ahead?
Thank you. Again, interesting question. So first of all, working at global good thing. It's not national. Of course, this is NPCI's national pride, but it has become the global good thing for the world as well. I have immense pride on this, and this is also comes with responsibility. Being an InfoSec leader for NPCI and data protection officer for NPCI, it gives me the kind of bigger responsibility. And protecting this global good thing is of course, always a challenge for us. But with the help of my team and all the support of management, I think we are moving in the right pace and in the right direction. Now coming to that, now just adding to what Greece has told and this, right? So if you integrate this cybersecurity into ESG, you can get the different short-term and the long-term both benefit. I remember the one immediate benefit, if you can show to your insurer during your cyber insurance premium negotiation, if you can show this KRI that how you are integrating with ESG, you can get some premium discount as well. This can be the immediate motivation for most of us, right? Second is that if you are really serious to integrate this will create a kind of global visibility for you, because this ESG score is known to the global thing. If you have the motivation to become global, I think this is the time to start practicing this cyber security into the ESG. These are the two immediate benefit and the long-term benefit you can get. And apart from this, right, if you practice this cyber security, as you rightly said, right, so NPCI is taking a lot of initiative. I am sure that most of you have seen that ad from Pankaj Tripathi, who is talking about the cyber hygiene. Any of you, have you seen anyone? The Pankaj Tripathi?
Yeah, the
right? So we are responsible as well that how UPI to be, function at the user hand, right? So what are the cyber hygiene to be practiced? How don't get lured by the, all those greed, etc., right? This is important. So we are responsible and we are investing in that as well. On the governance side, definitely, right, we are taking many more steps and to comply with the global regulation and internal practice we are strengthening. On the environment side, many things we are doing. So how this entire ecosystem of EPI or RuPay to be further strengthened, how further automation can be brought, what are the new technology we can think of, how we can reduce the footprint of carbon footprint on our data center load, etc. So as you know, NPCI is one of the most innovative company. And we are exploring with the new technology as well to bring all those, differentiating factor for the NPCI, which not only can reduce the cost as well, that speed up our pace and also increase our environmental responsibility as well. So many things we are doing, and protecting this global good thing like NPCI is the challenge and the happiness as well for us. And we are able to identify the threat from entire ecosystem, taking proactive action. Organizations like RBI, NCIPC, I4C, DFS, many other organizations are helping CERTIN, etc. We are closely working with all those national level institutions to see that how together we can protect this global good
So
thing.
Ritesh, thank you, sir. This is really good conversation to really instigate some of the security professionals here, so how to think big and because we are creating big impact and how we try to bring those bigger, larger context to the work that we do. Ritesh, in insurance actuarial science that is evolving, how it is evolved to factor to compete some of these kind of effort organizations are making, because they are negotiating with means you will be competing the effort that's been put together and some numbers must be put together. So can you briefly talk about how this is getting factored in?
So first I'll say charity begins at home. Thanks to NPCI, I have not been to an ATM. I have not used my ATM card. That's again saving the environment. I'm gradually stopping using business cards. I use a QR code on my phone. This is my way of putting back to the environment. On the insurance side, the same way insurance company looks at it, how good the company is. Let's say, for argument's sake, very, very layman example, if a CIBIL score is good, there will be banks dying to give you loan, when you actually don't require the loan. The same way insurance company, if you have good ESG environment, if you have good roadmap ahead, if you have good cyber security controls, that's where they're keen on it. To give you a live example, we concluded a very large deal for a client. This sector is the most affected sector. There's no insurance company keen on writing this risk. We had a proper roadshow where the CISO explained all the insurers what's my roadmap ahead in 6 months. What's the board approval I have? What POs are going to be issued to this forensic for the cybersecurity vendors? And initially, insurance company were hesitant, but they gave them 3 months time. So, okay, you prove us this, then we agree to come on risk for you. And it's been 6 months now, insurance are coming and speaking to us that on renewal, please consider us. It's just because the CISO was so confident on what they are taking in the governance side, because it's an international company. And this sector has been fined left, right and center by all the regulators, CCPA, GDPR, others. So in India, DPDP as well, but insurers were very not keen on it. It's just as Mr. Kumar said, that how do you make a business plan to your board and tell them why I'm spending what I'm spending. Like RBI has certain guidelines. So I'll say 1st of April, small banks, very small banks, there was a facility done by a very large insurer where 70 banks bought cyber insurances. That's a thought process.
Yeah.
That how is the government, how is the regulator, how is other organizations coming towards one goal of risk transfer. An insurance company is okay to underwrite the risk if it's a good risk.
Yeah.
And we give you some subjectivities as well.
Yeah.
So that's how we stand on.
So I'll come to Anurag as probably last question because time up is signaled there. So because in security community is also a community of a provider which is helping, supporting such kind of goals achieved by the organizations and which are achieve also regulatory compliances as well. So in the short and long run, what is the role that you see is security provider community to achieve ESG goal, especially in the context of cybersecurity?
Sure. I think this is a bit of a cliche that we talk about systems talking to each other, integrating.
Yeah.
Everyone talks about it, and generally the reason for that is to make it more efficient, make it more visible. But in my opinion, it is also going to be important through an ESG perspective. Now, talking about a use case where we are talking to the corporates, the organizations, and of course there'll be thousands of employees in those organizations. If you can give the employees the control to have to take decisions on their data or maybe how the device is going to go ahead. So basically a self-service portal in the technology terms, maybe integrating ServiceNow with whatever you're looking to do and give that control to the employee themselves. Then I think that is the roadmap going ahead. We have to look that these integrations are not just how they have been traditionally looked at, but these systems talking to each other would also help through a sustainability perspective as well.
Yeah, and then one of the things which Ritesh talked about, if security assures you give you confidence of security as well as privacy, people will use more digital means, and that will reduce carbon footprint quite significantly, right? And that is a very critical role that security plays, the contribution of security to the achieving overall ESG goal. Hope this was definitely a new topic for us to also dwell, but hope for all the audience here, we could, with the help of all of these participants here and panelists here, we could able to at least unpeel some part of what we mean by ESG and what we mean by ESG in the context of IoT. Do you agree with me? If you agree, please join me to give a big hand to all the panelists here.